Okay, personal injury paralegals, this one's for you. I received a lot of requests, especially after I did the podcast episode. And I'm going to share that podcast episode here within this video, but I'm going to give you a bonus. And I'm going to give you a bonus before I share the podcast episode. So, one of the most received questions that I get is usually from personal injury paralegals. And that question is, help me. What do I do to succeed? I just started at this personal injury firm. And so I put together an 8-step plan, and it's in a PDF. I'll include the link in the description below in case you like to have it printed out or, you prefer to follow along while you're watching. But anyways, I'm going to share that podcast episode. And I thought, while I was doing some updates this past week to the personal injury Paralegal Boot Camp, I came across something that I thought, I should have put that in that 8-step guide. And so I decided I'm going to jump on here real quick before I have a couple of coaching calls this afternoon and give you a bonus. One of the things that I think I should have put in there is that if you want to be a rock star personal injury paralegal, the one thing you can do, the probably most important thing that you can do, is to find the bottleneck. What's the bottleneck? Well, the bottleneck is there's always a phase, at least one phase, of your personal injury claim files that gets stuck somewhere, that's holding up the file from getting to the point of the settlement, negotiations, and disbursements. And the reason why that's so important in a personal injury firm, if you don't know already, if you're in a plaintiff's personal injury firm, until those cases get to the point of disbursement, you can't get any attorney's fees. And your firm isn't paying or has a hard time paying bills if they don't get any attorney's fees in. And so if you're the person in the firm that discovers where the bottleneck is and finds a way to solve it, you're the rockstar paralegal. And so that might be during the intake phase. It could be medical records requests that are getting delayed, getting the records in. It could be doctor's appointments, doctor meetings with the attorney. It could be the drafting of the demand letter, right? You can't draft the demand letter until all this other stuff is done. And that's what I teach inside the personal injury boot camp, how to find the bottleneck and how to fix it. And so if you can be that paralegal, the one who analyzes, looks at the data from each of those phases and says, where are these files getting hung up? Then you could be the rockstar personal injury paralegal. All right, so I'm going to share the podcast episode where I give some of the other tips on being the rockstar personal injury paralegal. And it's audio only, but I think you're going to enjoy it. All right, let's jump right in. Step number 1, learn anatomy and medicine. A very big part of your job as a personal injury paralegal is going to involve medical records. Requesting them, receiving them, reviewing them, organizing them, summarizing them. Because of that, one big step, I'd actually even call this a mandatory step, is to learn the basics of anatomy and medicine. Let me give you some ways that you can learn that without having to go to medical school or nursing school. One, you could grab a medical school study guide or a guidebook on anatomy or physiology. Some of them maybe would be for dummies. There's For Dummies series, but they've also got a demystified series that is specific to anatomy and drawings. Read those books and tab the important parts so that you can easily go back to them. And the important parts are going to be the ones that are typical in your particular practice. For example, if you're doing medical malpractice, and a lot of them are surgeries that involve maybe heart surgery or brain surgery or something, then the tabs that you have and the important parts are going to be different than if you're a personal injury paralegal working for a law firm that does plaintiff's personal injury auto claims. All right, second, and this is just anatomy and medicine, watch videos online, just of basic anatomy and physiology. They're free on YouTube. You can even watch surgeries like the kinds that your clients are typically getting so that you can better understand what happens, recovery time, maybe the after effects, if there's any permanent disabilities. You can also learn about broken bones and their surgeries, soft tissue injuries to the neck and back. Another thing you could do is find and keep a chart or diagram hanging up in your office of just the bones and the large muscle systems of the body. And of course, we can't forget about Google. Google is your friend. Just make sure when you're online, whenever you have a question, before you ask the lawyer, what is this or what is that? Do a quick Google search now, but make sure that obviously it's from a reliable source. You could also jump into ChatGPT and ask, what is radiculopathy? Hey, ChatGPT, what is neuropathy? All right, step number 2, know your statute of limitations. The statute of limitations is a time limit that you have to be able to commence the lawsuit. And if it's not commenced within that time period, it could result in the lawsuit being dismissed by the court. If the law firm accepted the case before the statute of limitations period expired, and your firm doesn't either negotiate a settlement or file a lawsuit before that expires, it could result in your law firm having a legal malpractice claim against it. That's a big deal. That's actually a huge deal. Put yourself in the client's shoes for this one. Imagine that you have a horrible, disabling, or disfiguring injury as a result of a bad car accident that wasn't your fault. Your law firm messes up and misses the statute of limitations, doesn't file the complaint in time. You have to live with this disability for the rest of your life without any recovery of money just because your law firm messed up. Yeah, you can bet they're going to be coming after the law firm for some money. And while this is an issue that typically is mostly concerning to the lawyers, it really affects the entire firm, including you. As a personal injury paralegal, you need to know every type of statute of limitations period, the exceptions, and memorize them for every one of your cases that haven't commenced yet. You should then remind your lawyers of those statute of limitations as they get closer to it, not just one reminder. Most personal injury firms have docketing or calendaring software that's going to automate this process. If your firm doesn't, if you're in a small firm and you don't have access to that, then set a reminder on your calendar for 60 days out, 30 days out, 15 days out, 5 days out, and the day before. When each of these reminders comes up on your calendar, send the attorney a reminder email. This is not the time to worry that you're bugging the attorney too much when it comes to reminding them about the statute of limitations expiring soon. All right, number 3, learn medical abbreviations. As you know, medical professionals use a lot of shorthand in their notes and in their medical charts. Some of them are obvious and others are not. All personal injury paralegals need to learn these abbreviations and the lingo to avoid making mistakes when you're summarizing these records, or when you're trying to see if there could be additional records out there. Now, some of the basics like FX for fracture, DX for diagnosis, RX for prescription, HX for history, they're frequently used and that most of them seem pretty self-explanatory. But there are other abbreviations that are way less intuitive, and yet you still need to be researching them and recording them in your chart. So record them somewhere in a chart that's alphabetized on your computer that you can easily pull up and have on the screen when you're reviewing or summarizing your medical records. And yes, the internet is super helpful because you can just simply do a Google search. But here's the thing. If you have to stop what you're doing to look up, even for simple abbreviations, you have to jump into Google and look it up and figure out which result you want to click on, it's going to take you twice as long to get that project done. Number 4, understand medical terminology. Different than medical abbreviations, and this is different than understanding the basics of anatomy. This is medical terminology. Depending on whether or not your personal injury law firm has specific injury claims that they specialize in, knowing those medical terms is going to be vital to your job duties. For example, knowing the difference between a distal fracture and a proximal fracture. That could be very important because it changes the entire location and sometimes the entire value of a case. So start yourself a cheat sheet, not just for the abbreviations, but also for medical terminology. Have it on your computer. You want to be able to have it available to you so that it's easy for you to look up. That's why I suggest having the anatomy chart on your wall Have it within eye distance. You don't have to get up and go look at it. You can just simply be sitting at your desk, reviewing or summarizing or whatever you're doing with these medical records, and look up at the wall, look at the chart, pull up your cheat sheet, and you've got all the information nearby. Number 5, know how to obtain medical records quickly and efficiently. And that's the key, quickly and efficiently, because this is a major part or major job responsibility for a personal injury paralegal. So you're going to have records from hospitals, primary care physicians, surgical groups, individual doctors' offices, maybe places where they had their lab work done. Knowing how to request these medical records and to get them quickly and efficiently is essential, especially when we've got a statute of limitations coming up. It's also important to ask the lawyer or lawyers that you're working with if they prefer paper or digital copies, because most of the healthcare providers now, they use digital records. And that can save your law firm time and money to get these record requests done, but maybe the attorney prefers to see them in paper, which just means you got to take the digital and turn it into paper. Hopefully, when you start at that law firm, they already have some sort of SOP, I call it, a standard operating procedures, for most of the commonly requested providers. In other words, you typically are requesting medical records in your location from 3 different hospitals. There's maybe 3 major hospitals in your area, and you're typically requesting them from those 3. Well, then you should have a file on your computer, an SOP, that says, when requesting from ABC Hospital, this is what they require. When requesting from XYZ Hospital, this is what they require. And who the contact person is, what their phone number is, the email, like all of the information is right there so that you just pull it up and do what the SOP says. All right, step 6, develop form letters and templates and keep improving them. Having templates and forms available is going to make your work quicker and more efficient. Now, when you're developing these form letters, you got to be improving them, though, with the advice of the lawyers that you're working with. That's going to elevate you and your work product. This doesn't have to be some formal review that the lawyer is doing where you hand them the template and say, hey, can you look this over? It could just simply be when the lawyer's making certain edits to your letters or, your forms and templates. When they make those edits, you incorporate them and start a new template so that now you have the template that has the edits in there. I want to add something here because I see this far too often. You started a new firm. Lucky for you, they already have forms and templates set up for most of the things that you might need to draft. You must look at every one of them as if they could be riddled with errors. As soon as you open that template and start to edit it to use it for whatever you need it for, it becomes your work product and you're responsible for the errors in it. So make sure that you do a thorough proofread before you're going to be able to say to the attorney, oh, well, I just used that one that was in the template file. I didn't draft it myself. Those errors, they're not mine. We all know lawyers hate to hear excuses. All right, there's the 6 steps for you to be a rock star personal injury paralegal, or at least get you on your way to one. Now, remember, I put together a PDF for you to be able to get those other 2 bonuses, and they might surprise you. They're bonus steps. These are just some of the important tips on how to become a rock star personal injury paralegal. If you're ready to take it to the next level, join me inside the Personal Injury Paralegal Boot Camp. It's at personalinjuryparalegalbootcamp.com.